Today I'm going to talk about something that isn't discussed a lot in long-term food storage, but that is storing fats and oils. And I thought I'd tell you a little bit about why we need to store them and what is the expected shelf life of these different fats and oils and what's the best way to store them. So let's get started. So I'm talking about fats, and right away people go, oh, fats, bad food. But your body needs a certain amount of fat to thrive. Fats are needed to process vitamins A, D, E, and K, and they help the body clot blood and your brain function and many other things. So you do need a certain degree of fat. Now, of course, if you have too much fat, excess fat that is not expended immediately is stored in something called adipose tissue, which is adipose is a nice word for fatty tissue. So, you don't want too much fat either. But it's important to store fat and oils in your long-term food storage. Now, if you're the type of prepper who says, I'm going to kill what I need to eat when if a terrible event occurs, I'm just going out in my backyard and kill the bunny rabbits and squirrels, well, that might be a plan, but you have to be careful because that's real lean meat and it might not give your body the amount of oil or fat that you need. Now, the opposite is true. If you've mainly stored canned Spam and plan on having Spam every day, you'll probably get more fat than your body needs. Just about all natural foods contain some fat because that's nature's most economical way of storing energy. And so you can get fat, of course, from meat, from fatty fish like mackerel and herring and salmon, from cheese, dairy products, avocados, nuts, and many, many more things. But today what I'm talking about is the actual storing of the fat and oil itself, separate from its source. Why we need it in our long-term food preps is we need it for baking and for cooking. So let's talk about some of the different kinds of fats and oils. Now, when I go in to talk about some of the shelf life of these items, it's really very approximate because part of it depends on when it was actually produced, when it was canned or bottled, and what conditions it was kept in then, and then the travel to the store, what conditions it was kept in the store, and what conditions you are keeping it at home. You want to generally keep fats and oils out of the light, away from heat, and try to remove the oxygen if possible. So those three things do help extend your fats and oils. And in some cases, either refrigerating or actual freezing your fats and oils will extend the shelf life. So let's start talking about individual fats and oils. Oops, one more thing I should mention. Most of these shelf life statistics come from doesitgobad.com. Now, some of you might have like this. This is shortening or the artificial butter. I guess in a pinch, that's okay. But to be honest, I prefer the real thing. So if the real thing wasn't available, then I'd use this. But otherwise, this just stays in my long-term storage. I once read that the pioneers that traveled the Oregon Trail, in their wagons, took with them an average of 50 pounds of lard. Lard was the preferred cooking fat of the time, and it has kind of grown out of favor. Although some cooks will tell you it's the best for making pie crust and some biscuits. Now, if you have your own homestead, maybe slaughter your own pigs, you might even render your own lard. But for the rest of us that don't do that, you can buy it at the store. This was actually bought at Walmart, but you can get it at your local grocery store. And it has a best use date by it. This one, Best Buy, was until January 2020. But I'd like to extend the life of that. Usually they say the shelf life is a year or more. If you don't do anything, just keep it in this container. If you keep it in the refrigerator, it's longer. But if you freeze it, it can be up to 3 years or more. The problem is you don't want to freeze it in a container like this because it's plastic. It will crack. So you want to change it into a freezer safe container. Or what I think is a good idea is you cut it up into cubes, place it on a tray that has either parchment paper or wax paper over it. So then you put the cubes on top of that, freeze it, and then you put those frozen cubes in your vacuum packed bags and vacuum pack them and put them in your freezer. In that case, they can be good for another year or more. And the nice thing about that is you only take out one bag instead of taking out this whole darn container, which once it defrosts and you try to freeze it again, it will affect the quality and the taste. And when you take out that bag of your cubes, it can keep another 6 months in the refrigerator. So that's pretty good. I should mention, if this starts smelling, it's time to throw it away. It is going rancid. And if you've ever had a fat or oil go rancid, you will remember the smell.
So for lard, room temperature unopened, refer to your package best by date, refrigerated open, about 1 year, and freezer, 3 years or maybe even more.
Here's a little can of Crisco. My mom always kept a bigger can of this right next to the burner on the stove, and she used Crisco a lot. I rarely use it, but it's nice to keep on hand. It's supposed to be shelf stable for 2 years past the production date. This one was saying best by January 2020. But again, the time could be extended if it was placed in the refrigerator or placed in the freezer. And if it does go rancid, you can always make a candle out of it. Plenty of YouTube videos on that.
So for Crisco, room temperature unopened, refer to your package best by date, refrigerated open, 1 year, freezer, not sure, never frozen it, and I couldn't find anybody who did.
Okay, olive oil or regular vegetable oil, something we all have in our pantry, I think, and in our staples. You want oil if you can buy it in a dark container because it will keep longer. They say don't put this in your refrigerator or freezer. It will affect the quality. It can often be good for 2 years past this date. This says manufacturing date of 11/24/2017. So this will begin to November of 2019. So the important thing with your oil is keep it away from the heat and keep it in a dark place, in a dark container like this. And you know, the interesting thing is, the lighter your oil, the longer it will actually keep for shelf life. I have no idea why.
Your vegetable or your olive oil, room temperature unopened, 2 years or best by date, room temperature open, about 1 year, and freezer, not recommended, nor is it recommended to put your oil in the refrigerator.
So let me tell you a little story about butter. When I was young, margarine was all the rage. Butter was supposed to, be bad for you. I got home once and my dad was coming home for dinner, and he was a very even-tempered man. And he sat down and he said, "What's that? That's not butter." And my mom said, "Well, no, it's margarine. It's supposed to be better for you." And he threw a hairy fit. He said, "What, you don't think we can afford butter? This family only gets the real thing." You know what? My family has always gotten only the real thing also. But we don't use butter in excess. Now, the interesting thing is, salted butter will keep twice as long as unsalted butter. So you can keep this in your refrigerator, but generally what I do is keep it in my freezer. Let me show you a peek. And this salted butter will keep up for 8 months or more in the freezer. And we just take out stick as we need it.
Butter. Well, if you're going to leave it room temperature, then the best thing is to put it in a Butterbell crock, in the water. That will keep it from spoiling. Otherwise, keep your butter in your refrigerator and it'll keep at least for 1 month good. And in your freezer, 4 to 8 plus months depending. The 4 months more for unsalted butter and the 8 months for salted butter.
Now here's another kind of butter. It is the red feather. It's canned butter. It tastes good. The problem is it's pretty expensive. The cheapest I've been able to find it is $6.99 at Pleasant Valley Grain. It stores for at least 2 years. Some people say for many, many years after that, as long as the can isn't damaged and you keep it at, a lower temperature and out of the heat and light. So this is another alternative if you want to add this to your preps, but like I said, it's a bit expensive. Some of you might can your own butter too. I don't do that. That is against the USDA requirements, and I don't feel comfortable canning my own butter. And this is ghee, and if any of you do any Indian cooking, you know that this is often used in Indian cuisine, but we also use it, warm up some in the microwave and use it to dip, crab legs in it if we're lucky enough to have some. I mean, it's great for that. And it's actually really good for pouring over popcorn or anything like that too. Now this shelf life, it says this will be done in October of this year. And I just bought it recently, so that's not the best shelf life. However, they say refrigerating it can keep it for a year. And if you put it in your freezer for 2-3 years, or some people say even indefinitely. So this is something you might want to keep in your preps. I should mention that ghee can go bad, and when it does, you'll know it. It turns a funny shade of brown and it will smell sour. And then it's time, throw it away.
Ghee, again, for room temperature unopened, refer to your package best by date. Refrigerated open, 1+ years. And freezer, not sure, but a long, long time.
Coconut oil seems to be all the rage right now. It's supposed to be the healthy oil for you, and it does things for your face, hair, teeth, whatever. To me, it's kind of a fad right now that I think will pass, but still, it's a great oil to keep on hand. It has a longer shelf life. This one I bought recently, and this is January 2020. So that's about a 2-year shelf life. Many people say it will keep much longer. Again, you could put it in your refrigerator or freeze it. Some people say, oh, it's indefinite. But coconut oil will go bad. When it does, it turns a shade of brown and it actually curdles like milk.
So refined coconut oil has a shelf life of approximately 18 months. And some people say it will keep much longer. It just depends again on how it's made and how virgin the oil is. It's usually not recommended to put it in your refrigerator or your freezer because it will go solid.
So what can you do if your fats or oil do go rancid? Well, I think the best thing to do is use them for grease, make candles out of them, or if you're really clever, I guess, make some biodiesel. But the best thing is to prevent them from going rancid, period. Just rotate your fats and oils through your regular cooking. So you always have a supply in storage, but you're freshening it up because you're using it. So rotation, to me, makes the most sense. And I think it's a good idea to have a variety of fats and oils. Now, this is just what I do. I would love to hear what you do. Do you store fats and oils? If so, what do you store? And how do you store it? And for you, what have you found to be the best, longest lasting shelf life, fat or oil? Please comment down below. I think we all would like to hear each other's experiences with storing fats and oils. This is Prepper Potpourri saying please subscribe, share the knowledge, thumbs up if you like this video, and remember I try to produce a new prepper video that's released generally Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and more of a cooking, gardening, or something else that interests me video on Thursday at 6 p.m. every week. Thank you.